Hey, welcome to my gardens again. So, had a bunch of people ask me a similar question. So, how do I come up with the design and the idea of what plants go where, and even I've had a few people at the local garden center who I've run into ask me some of the same questions. So the best advice I've given to many people over the years is you start with the concept of the area you want to put a garden. As you see, everything is free flowing in my garden. I don't have straight lines with the grass, and the grass adds a different context and a contrast to all the gardens. So the whole idea is you have to not be afraid to be creative and not be afraid to fail. I've had a lot of plants over the years either not work in the area, or I realized I didn't like it, or it was too much of the same color, same height, and I moved plants around, or I give them away. It's all an experiment. But some of the things I do explain to people is you find one or two plants. Mine is always the candy corn spirea. So this is 3 different plants. I have new ones I've planted there. That's a gold one. But the candy corn spireas, like these, always bring in an aspect of color. In the early summer, late winter, when they start leafing out, the leaves are bright red. Then they go to a burnt orange and yellow. Then they start turning this vibrant green, and then they bloom. These are more pinkish purple. The doozies over there are more red. You start with one plant and you work your way out. And then you find complementary colors. A great example of that I have is one is the catmint. So you have that bluish purple hue to the leaves, the flowers. So that's a Walker's Little Catmint. This is an Avon's GM Tangerine. So you have that tangerine color, and next to that bluish purple, then you add a beard tongue. So you have not only, now I have the purple flower with the white core, but the reddish foliage on the plant, which gives you contrast. And then I have drops of Jupiter oregano. It's an ornamental oregano, which does bloom. Next to that, in between everything else. So there's a contrast of color, not just the blooms of the flower, but the plant itself. Not every green is the same. Sedum is more grayish than the turtle heads. I have a bluebeard, so it's a more gray tone, green. You have the spires of, iris. You have the spires of different type of plants, so you have contrast. You have Russian sage, which is great because even in the winter, you have that grayish stalk that brings contrast even into a winter garden bed. And don't be afraid of, like I said, don't be afraid of failure, and frustration. Frustrations of yarrow, when it gets too big, this is what happens. I have a bunch of them that I need to split. And that's just, running into issues of time, and then what do I do with them? And also different varieties, like I said, the coloration of the leaves. So not only the blooms are yellow, those are red. The coloration of the leaf and the plant itself is very different. So even though the flowers look similar, in structure, the color is different, but the leaves are different. So even when it's not in bloom, there's some aspect of interest. And then just try out different things. Throw, a coneflower in the middle. The other thing, people ask about designing the gardens, I also design it for environmental issues. Deer are my biggest challenge. And as you see, they love flocks, eating down. So, and they ate that one coneflower. So you plant accordingly. So you try to protect the plants by either physical barrier, or by planting things like bee balm, sage, catmint. It's a deterrent to most animals, the deer, the rabbits, from going into that area. So, but the basic design is trial and error. I will stand out here and look at a contour of the property, like when I added this whole new section. I was originally going to take this whole section of grass out, and I decided not to because it brought a different aspect of contrast. That you flow all the way up into that area and either can walk through the new garden or walk through the arbor into the side and backyard. And then if you don't like it, you can always change it. I can always grow grass back in an area. I can always take more grass out. I can move plants. I can put different type of plants in. It's the leap of faith, as I told someone recently at the garden center, whether something is going to work or not. And you let the plant tell you if it likes where it is, because they will. They will tell you if they like it. And the plants will also tell you if the deer eat it and what do I need to do. They love Heliopsis. So I need to, if I want to have Heliopsis in my garden, I need to be able to protect it. So, here's a good example. This is butterfly weed, and there's a snapped off branch eaten by something. Could be a rabbit, it could be a deer. I don't see any hoof marks, except my own. But if I want to have certain plants, I have to be creative. So I have my Heliopsis in here, all through here. These are the burning heart Heliopsis, or false sunflowers. So I try to plant different things to protect, because see, they did get a piece of it, and that was before I put the sun drop in to try to physically block them from walking in. But the idea of the gardens is just imagination. I'll stand out here and just walk around, and then it's also what do you have at your garden centers? You look at different options. You look at different things that may or may not work, or that you may or may not like. So depending on what they have, sometimes you're stuck with only certain type of plants in an area that may not have a very well stocked garden center like I have. But the concept is the same. Is don't be afraid. Suburban gardens are boring. You don't have to go to this extreme that I have, but be creative. Have it free flowing. You don't follow the norm. Is another thing. Having, here's a perfect example. I have the Doozy Spirea. I have Yarrow. Both are 3 feet tall. And then I have a daisy behind it, which is much smaller. That's Heliopsis that they ate. So that's one of the problems. That's why I put the Doozy Spirea here, to try to block them. But you don't have to go with that low, medium, and high effect. You tuck things behind each other. Like here, from this angle, I see my balloon flowers and I see my yarrow. And then I come around and, oh, there's a blanket flower. There's another daisy. You hide things in plain sight, in a sense. I have an Asiatic lily, that's hidden behind things. The sneeze weeds, and you tuck things in to give people an aspect of interest when they walk around the garden. Because if they see everything from this view, if you can see everything, why do we need to walk through your garden? And that's the big aspect that I try to present, is there's something hidden. There's something behind something. So it makes you walk around the garden to see things from a different perspective and a different viewpoint. And that's what makes it fun, because you can do whatever you want. There's an iris. That's a autumn surprise. So that's a repeat bloomer. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of there, in the spring it'll bloom, and late summer it'll bloom again. But the best way to start, pick a plant, pick something that you like. I love the candy corn spirea. And then I build off of that. I build off of contrasted peonies, because the challenge with also is when things bloom. You don't want everything blooming at the same time, because then your garden is just green and boring. So you have to do some research, and you have to spend a little more time to be creative. Here's another good example. So this is blue sea holly. So they're starting to change. It's a very prickly plant, very hard, contrast next to a peony, next to iris. And then you add an orange butterfly bush, and the orange and blue play off each other. So there's the automatic interest of color. And then the height differentials. I have lilies tucked in there, and you don't really see them from one side, but you see them from the other. And then once they bloom, you'll really see them. And that's my secret, is just imagination, trial and error. Don't be afraid. If a plant doesn't work well in some space, there might be a reason, or just move it. Again, fall sunflower, almost eaten to the ground. So that's why I put the Indian pink over there to stop whatever's coming in, from eating it. But that's my concept, is trial and error and experimentation. Some plants I put in, like the Heliopsis, I'm realizing that deer will just devastate them. There's other plants that I have, they don't come near them. So that helps me with my design on what I'm going to put in and what I'm going to take a chance on. And in the end, if they eat it, they eat it. But I try to prevent as much as possible. Like my dahlias are all starting to pop up. I have catmint, that's a cat's pajamas, which is the smaller variety. I have bee balm, all deterrents from deer, rabbits. And then I add physical barriers of the spurge and the beard tongue, to try to block them from physically getting in. It's a challenge, but I'm going to continue to try it, and if they get in and eat it, they eat it. I learned my lesson, and I possibly plant something different there. But yeah, the best advice I give people is just don't be afraid to be creative. Not every garden has to be the same. Not every garden has to conform. You don't have to use evergreens and shape them like everybody else does. you know, like across the street from me, just shielding from view, just a wall of hedge. And even if you had gardens in there, what's the point? Because no one could ever see them. The house across the street, they ripped them all out. The house is for sale, so they ripped out all the 50-year-old evergreens and boxwoods and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do over there when the house sells. But just find a spot, make it creative. Dig it out where it's not square. It doesn't align. It bumps out, and it contracts with other areas of your garden, and there's contrast. But yeah, start with one plant, and start with one or two that you like, that they complement each other and contradict each other. Soft versus hard, color, and that'll help you get started, and then you build from there out is the best example. So, but thanks for watching. I got a couple more ideas I'm going to promote. One of my next videos, I'm going to talk about all the organic aspects of what I do, because everything I do is organic. But thanks for watching. If you got any questions, let me know. Like the video, subscribe, leave comments.